All right, are we all ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Kyle, Dwight, you guys are ready? All right, hearing nothing. All right, thank you all for being here tonight. It is 6:31. I would like to call to order our Public Safety Committee meeting, regularly scheduled for today, Tuesday, May 5th, and it is now 6:31 p.m. Madam Clerk, if I can please, actually, no, if I could please have a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. You need to, we have a,
I can't hear you. What did you say?
do we have a flag?
Behind you.
Your flag. Yeah, hold on. The thing is that this went on slower. No, she's talking about the one to share the screen. There you go. Do you see it?
Not yet. Perfect, thank you. Okay, so let's have Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, and to
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Roll call. Mayor Cubillos. Chairperson Cubillos.
Here.
Vice Chair Nickerson.
Here.
Member Roman.
Here.
Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, Christy Alou, Village Manager, Interim Village Attorney Norman Powell, and Chief Magnuson.
Okay, perfect. At this time, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 3rd Public Safety Committee meeting?
Make a motion to approve the minutes, Madam Mayor.
Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilperson Roman. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Please. Hearing none, our minutes for the March 3rd Public Safety Committee meeting does pass. All right, I want to go into the first agenda item. The first agenda item is COVID-19. So I'm going to go down with a few questions that I have for both the manager and the chief, and then I will we'll open it up for any other questions that we may have as it relates to COVID-19 and where we're at this point with the village, and a couple of other things that I believe we need to go through. So first and foremost, with COVID-19, I want to start off with, I know that when I meet with the manager and the chief with regards to COVID-19 and what have we done to put in place to safeguard and mitigate the spread for the department and for the staff. But if you can just go over a little bit so the committee is aware and those that are hearing us today knows what are some of the processes that you have done with regards to COVID-19 to both safeguard our employees and to mitigate the spread, and talk a little bit about those officers that have been either positive or not and have they been tested. You can give us a little brief report for the chief, that is.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. In terms of the COVID, I want to preface it by saying that as far as with the day chiefs of police go, I am the chairperson for the COVID committee. So as such, I've been able to get a lot of information and disseminate it around to the other agencies, the other police chiefs within Miami-Dade County, as well as getting some good information. I'm able to impart that on a daily basis, not only to you, Mayor, and to you, Madam Manager, but also to the rank and file of the police department. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we had one person did test positive, an officer, for COVID-19, and I immediately ramped up a number of items that we did to safeguard the entire building, the police station and the entire complex, including the village hall, which we had in effect from the time when a civilian employee got it a few weeks prior to that. And what we are doing is constant cleaning within the station. We are having it. Nobody's coming in to the station. We meet them at the doorways. Everybody must have a mask. If we do have workers that have to come in, they are having a mask. The officers, unless they're in a specific office, must wear a mask. In the situation, if we're riding a 2-person unit, both people must have a mask on. And, you know, if you're in your office, you don't need one. Once you exit the office, you have to have one. So we've been staying on top of that. In addition to the officer that tested positive, myself and 5 other officers also got tested. Everybody came back negative. We are doing thankfully, we are doing the social distancing, the constant hand washing, cleaning up with bleach and the alcohol sprayed everywhere. It's basically a germaphobe's dream in that place because we're very consistent. Everybody's picking it up. It's not just me saying or the lieutenant. Everybody's saying, you know, you need your mask. Let's spray here. Let's do that. And I believe it's working. We got everybody on the right track where that goes. We have been prepared with the equipment that we have for a small agency. We're doing well as far as the PPE items that we have. We're still looking to get more, and we're still keeping a wary eye towards the autumn when, depending on who you listen to or what the experts say, it can come back in a second wave. We don't want to deplete our items right now and then have a difficult time coming back come the autumn time, and now we're having a difficult time getting those items once more. We've been very conservative in our usage of specifically the N95 mask or the KN95 mask that are from China. And we've been using other masks. The gloves we've been conservative on unless we're out on the street. And basically that's what we've been doing. There's a step-by-step mobilization plan if need be for the department in terms of COVID-19. If we have to ramp it up, fortunately we have not needed to do so at this point. I believe a lot of agencies have felt the same way. This is a long haul, and it would be too early to burn out the officers. We can sustain 1 or 2 people out because we've had this pre-COVID where there were some injuries and some operations to some officers, and we were able to work around that. So right now, the officer that was out, he was getting tested today for his first go around to test negative. Once that happens, he gets the results, he has to test negative again. He'll be back. We'll be back to full staff with that. The other person, Riveron, is going through therapy, non-COVID related, but he is coming. He is doing safety officer stuff and helping us out in the station. And so once he gets going, we will be back to full strength. So that's where we are right now with the COVID. It's a never-ending process, but it's the information that comes out. I'm getting it out to the officers right away. I was able to gain access to the health department with the locations within El Portal. However, that didn't pan out. The Miami-Dade County was able to furnish us with a daily report that it's not for duplication. And all I do is I keep track of the addresses, the locations. They don't have names, and I monitor that to make sure if the officers go that they are aware that this location is a problem. I will say this: in the last 2 weeks, there's been no new locations, which is a very good sign. And we sat at I think there were 12, but 2 of them shouldn't have been El Portal. One was Northeast 12th and 7 9th Street, so that was a matter of semantics. We've been sitting at 10 different locations within El Portal. And that's my initial COVID report to you, ma'am. I can't hear you.
Sorry, just trying to unmute. Okay.
Last report that I got for El Portal, we were at 13. Are we at more now?
When did you get this report, ma'am?
Probably a week and a half ago.
We haven't had any new ones in a week and a half based on the dates that I'm getting each day. And a couple of those El Portal, like I said, they're really not El Portal, right?
Okay. The other question I have, and you covered it a little bit. So how are the police officers with the PPEs in terms of gloves, Lysol, hand sanitizer, masks? include the part-timers, are they all covered in terms of need?
Everybody has gotten a little kit. We have the hand sanitizers, we have the rubbing alcohol, we have the Lysol. What we don't have, and I don't think we need it at this point, was the full bodysuit. If we can get it, we'll get it. I don't think that's necessary. We do have sleeves. Fortunately, we did not have to use those yet. They have plenty of gloves, and we have a different variety of masks. Usually, if they're just out and about, they can wear the regular the doctor mask, or they can wear the hard shell mask. The N395s, our burn rate is about 4 a week, because if they're meeting with people out there, I want the good mask on or something. If it turns out it's just taking a report and you have the social distancing, you don't need that. But there's been a couple instances and where it may be a situation where we have to go hands-on with somebody, or at least get close and guide them, so we want to have the good mask on. But again, it's an 8 to 10 hour shelf life on those, and we haven't reached those yet. So we've been, like I said, conservative with those masks. It's very important that we remain that way moving forward. And I know that something came out today on professional ways to decontaminate these masks, which tells me if they're looking into these professional ways to decontaminate, that there's a shortage. Because now they're going to you can decontaminate it 10 to 20 times, and then it's no good anymore so long as there's no liquids in it. And I just got the paperwork today. I will forward that later. You take a look at it. But we don't want to go down that road where we have to decontaminate these masks yet, because we want to have a good supply of them and maintain that supply. And again, for the small department that we have, I'm pretty comfortable with what we have stocked up thus far in keeping us safe and the community safe.
So for purposes of just inventory, you have medical masks, you have KN95, and you have N95. What exactly do you have?
Yes, I have N95s and KN95s. That's correct. The K, that's from China, if it has the K out in front. Those were, they were able to get those from there when we had the shortage in this country. We have some hard shell plaster painter masks, the hard shell ones. We have the face shields. We haven't had to use those yet. We only have like 17. Each officer has one. We have like an extra 7 off the side. That we have. We have the goggles for everybody in the event that we do have to go hands-on with somebody. The sanitizers, alcohol, the Lysol spray. That's about what we have.
Now, the full-timers take home their cars. The part-timers use the cars that are there. Are the cars being cleaned out?
Yes.
Officer?
If somebody else uses it, if the same officer, usually the part-time officer will basically use that car that they're using. If they're going to use somebody else's car, and that goes for a full-time, if they have to use a part-timer's car too, they will wipe it down with the bleach mix and everything in the areas and clean it out. That's correct.
In the time that we've been dealing with COVID, has there been any kind of arrest where there's been a detainee in the backseat of the car?
There has been a couple of them. We cleaned out the car. Yes, as a matter of fact, we just had one the other night as well. And we had a couple of domestic violence right when this broke. But yes, it has been cleaned out. We keep track of that, and we spray the backs of the cars as well. And
are you guys providing those detainees a mask, or how is that working out when they get in the car?
We're doing the doorway triage, talking to them, asking them if they had anything. We have not used the mask on them. Well, I couldn't tell you for sure if they put a mask on. We had a situation where we backed up the shores and they tried putting a mask on, and it's very difficult if they don't want to have the mask on, especially if it was after a chase or something like that and they're breathing hard. It's probably better to keep it off. But again, with the shield there, you do have that distancing, even though it's not 6 feet. That shield does help a lot when they're in the back seat. Once you get them in the back seat, and you're in the front seat.
And then I'm under the assumption, but I'd rather not assume, but know for sure that the police officer, after they have the detainee, they are cleaning the back of the car.
Yes.
And you all have a checklist that you all are using?
No, we do not. But they know that that's part of the protocol we put out to make sure, you clean up everything around you. That would include the car.
Checklist never hurt.
You're right.
You know, I'm not a police officer, but I'm under the assumption that if I'm dealing with a detainee and you're bringing them in and you're doing a report, you're not cleaning the car to hours later, you're hoping, because it's not like you're taking the detainee out and you're doing it immediately. It's going to actually have to be done.
Afterwards, that's correct. And the
That-
take-home cars especially, the take-home cars especially, I know for a fact, and it's only been a handful of officers that had somebody back in there, and I know for sure they cleaned the back of it because that's their take-home car. We have not had any detainees in the back of any of the part-timers' cars. But the checklist is a good idea. That's something we can certainly implement and remind them this is what needs to get done.
So in terms of mask, medical, and N95s, what do we all have in hand, and how long do you think it'll take us through for the police officers?
Right now, we have 250 or somewhere up around that amount. The burn rate, if it's 4 a week, if they're not using because they don't need to, it'll be more. But I have to do a report for the county, and my going burn rate, because of what it should be, is I'm sorry, 4 a day. I didn't mean 4 a week, 4 a day, which is going to about let's just say for like about 20 a week. It can last 10 to 15 weeks what we're doing now. If we stay conservative, it would last longer. We can last 25 weeks or something.
So you say you have 250 on hand?
250. There may be more. Yeah.
Is that for the 95s or for the medical?
No, in medical we have about an extra 200-300 on that. We got a lot with the medical ones.
Okay.
But I'm not too concerned with them as much as the M95s or the KN95s. That's why we're very careful with that, how we're using it. The burn rate again is very conservative because we're not using it as much, but that could go in a minute where we have a much quicker burn rate where we're going to go through it more. But as it stands now, if we were to continue, we're good right now for 10 to 20 weeks.
Christia, and you've given all of your staff masks as well. Do they have a mask? I know that they're not working, but I know, like, for example, Angel, and when Miriam comes back, and when Christian is there, and when Christopher is there, one is the administrator, one is the CFO. Are they wearing masks when they come into the office?
They're all wearing masks, yes.
And they're wearing the 95 mask?
No, they're not wearing the 95 mask. Neither are we in the office.
Okay, so you're wearing the
But
medical.
they have it. Everyone was given a 95 mask in the kit at the beginning. But while you're in the office, you can wear the other mask.
Include the staff as well, not just police officers, but the staff?
Correct, yes.
But understand, Mayor, that was almost 2 months ago, they were given the N95 masks. So they took those home, probably utilized them. And so they are, switching out as well. They need masks as well.
Okay. So, so in terms of staff, for example, Angel, I'll use Angel because I see him out a lot. How many does he have? And when he doesn't have, does he know to get a hold of you or to let you know? Or
Yes.
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 Everybody knows to let us know if they need masks because we,
Yes.
are supplying them for work.
Okay.
And for personal, if you need it for personal use. And not many have asked for them for personal use, but they use them at work.
Okay.
At the office.
Okay, perfect. And I know that we have internally discussed, but where are we at with what we have spent so far for COVID in terms of these supplies?
I don't have that figure with me. I do have the figure. It is on the computer. I can furnish that to you with the COVID supplies later. I will do that. I'll get that to you.
Is it like 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000?
It's 2,500 to 3,000, somewhere along that way. It's not 5,000. It's not that high.
Okay, so it's anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 that we've spent in PPE equipment.
Correct.
The other question I had was, in terms of scheduling, is Payne and Lassant, are they back?
Lassant is back. He went through a modified field training officer riding for the past few weeks with Burrell. He's good to go. Payne just got cleared because we put some pressure on some of these guys that have been out a while, saying, "Listen, and there's been a few what's with the doctor clearances? You've been gone a while. We need you back." So Payne's got his clearance, and Demoda just came up with a clearance because they've been out with some injuries for a while. We're like the walking wounded. But I want to get Payne back. He's a great asset. We got Lusant back. That was great. And we're here to work with everybody and get everybody on the same page. Everybody gets along, and that's good. We just need him to get back, and he was able to furnish the clearance letter. So he should be coming back anytime now. But I want to get him through a modified field training too, because he's been out, just to get him back on track and not throw him out there by himself. He can ride with somebody for, a couple of tours until he feels comfortable again, like we did with Lusant. And we'll probably have to do the same thing with the motor.
Now, I know that the manager, you and I, we talked about having an internal staff training, and we haven't been able to coordinate that. But what have you all implemented so far with especially with the police officers, to educate them on what the new normal is, so that when they're out there, they know what compliance looks like and what right and wrong looks like? So while we may not have had the meeting that I know, our schedules have been a little busy, I know mine has been, but what have they, or how were they, and when were they educated as far as getting an understanding of what to look out for with the new normal in terms of passive parks and recreational activities on the outside?
This has been an ongoing process that I've been educating them on from the onset. Now, with the changes that came with the parks reopening, everybody was briefed, but I also put out a chief's message explaining just last week, with the parks opening, what our new some of our new duties are, which would include an uptick in code enforcement. Now, with the code enforcement was shut down a while, to proactively pick up the slack there. But also that if people aren't listening, if they're not complying, we're going to have to take action. And they know that. They know that there's a new mindset that has to be taken. Maybe 6 months ago, we wouldn't have thought that was our task, but law enforcement has changed now because of everything going on. And if this is to succeed, if all the mayors in Dade County are pushing, to get things slowly in phases open, to get to phase 2, we got to be successful in phase 1. And what I put out to them, speaking with them and putting it out in the chief's message, that we're going to have to be the ones to hold people accountable. If there's a fly in the ointment, we're going to have to deal with it, or else we're never going to move on to the next step, which is what everybody wants. They want to ultimately progress back to normalcy, but it's going to be in increments. So they understand their new task. I mean, all across the country, I know summonses has gone down, and they have here too, and so have arrests. Now, that being said, we made more arrests last month, than most per capita, because of the domestic violence, which has since leveled off. And as a matter of fact, we have less domestic violence call up to this point this year than we did last year. So there's no rhyme or reason to it, really. But they do understand what they need to do. They understand about and the extra duties that are going to come before them when we do get to phase 2, and things that we're going to have to look for. I did reach out to the principal also of Mr. Lawrence, and discuss some of the concerns we have with the basketball court, albeit it's on Dade County public school grounds. We haven't had an issue there as of yet. With too many people playing basketball out there, but that's another concern. So we've also been communicating. We've been up and down blocks, keeping an eye on different areas, and plus we've been open to hearing any complaints from citizens about people not complying to these new directives, and we haven't heard any thus far, which is a good thing.
The village administrative staff was trained with me on April 29th. Last Wednesday, we went over the executive order of the Miami-Dade County mayor, went through all of the new normal charges. And I also reviewed some things with them from a training that I did from Florida local government information systems that talked about working from home and how to safeguard against, because there's an uptick in the online phishing and malware. So we are working with Complete Care for that as well. So we did that training on the 29th. We have had intensive reviews of the short version of the flyers that have been going out, the one-pagers that have gone out to the community, and we've also posted them on the marquees at the nature trail, as well as the village hall marquees on the front of the door. even though we have not opened the tot lot, but the passive parks are open. And Mr. Hernandez, our Public Works staffer, did paint the arrows on the nature trail path. And, you know, just taking cursory looks over there, we haven't seen much traffic over. I've seen some people over there. I've been over there as well. And day one we were there just to see how things were going. But it seems like everybody is, you know, complying, which is not what I've been hearing in other areas in Miami-Dade County, but at least our residents are complying, and I'm glad to see that.
Angel also was able to get the fence fixed. He was very
Yes.
adamant on that because when we first opened up, there was a problem with the fences, and made a basic decision. Well, even with the fences being somewhat decrepit, we got to open it up. I didn't want it shut down that first day where they were opening it up. But Angel was, Mr. Hernandez was very,
Yeah, Public Works, we did have our fence guys come out and fix
yeah,
the
they came out and it
fence
looked,
again,
everything's
'cause
good.
they get broken in very frequently. I don't understand why, but it has
Yeah.
happened yet again. So we did just have that done on Thursday.
Are we talking about the fence for the nature trail?
Yes, the gate.
So I have a question. So the flyer I sent got put up on all the marquees?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to go back to something that the chief was saying. I lost my point here with the COVID-19. Two things. No one wants to be that social regulator, right? But I think that in our community, the one thing that has been a constant, and that this is a great opportunity to escalate it, is community policing. You know, fortunately, we do live in a community where there's not an excess of violence in any category. I mean, we can look at the police stats month in and month out. It's not to the point where there's an extreme concern here. Yes, granted, there are things that can always be better, but I really do believe that having this COVID-19 compliance with the new normal is not going to go anywhere. So it's a really good opportunity. And let me rephrase that. It's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So it's going to become a part of our life, at least the way we know it right now for 2020. So our community has always been driven by community policing. And it would be good if they go back to basics on community policing, because this is what the compliance really is about. It's about really compliance and community policing. It's all about the community and how are we going to be able to work together as a community. And as Mayor Jimenez says so often now, I take care of you, you take care of me. And that's kind of what the whole message in the compliance is. So, and again, it's not that we want to be the bad guy. The police officer wants to be the bad guy, but the reality is that they are the regulators, they are the law, they do enforce the law. And unfortunately, people listen to policy and law more than they do to the average citizen, hence why law enforcement, one of the reasons why they exist. And for those officers that may not be comfortable, that, let them know this is nothing new in the sense that community policing should be something we're always doing. Now this is just going to be an added component to community policing, and that is going to be compliances. Do you have a mask on? Do you not have a mask on? Is there 15 people congregated in a group? Or you have 20 people on the horseman field? All of those things. So the question I had was, the new normal started on Wednesday, the 29th. Did your police officers, and I don't know if they were, being a little more mindful of, how did this weekend look? How did it look in El Portal? Did they see an uptick in people outside? Did they notice more activity in the parks? Did they have to talk to people a little more? Tell me a little bit if you know of anything they may have said to you that may have been different this weekend.
They saw people out and about. There were no issues. There were no issues that they reported to me. The weather was beautiful. There were more people out, and we briefed them. I briefed them on that there is going to be more and more people out. And, in the instance where people are congregating, just like we brought up last time in another discussion, for instance, the construction site, if that roach coach, as they call it, would have pulled up there and people congregated, I briefed them on that. I said, normally you drive by, you might not pay it much mind, but here you're going to have to stop and break them up. If there's 10 or more people there, if they're in the nature trail or in the park without the mask, you have to have them put it on. I mean, professionally, talk to them, have your mask on when you do it, that helps. But there haven't been any issues like that, but they've been driving around, seeing people. But there's been people walking around, not in the park per se, but there's been people walking around up and down the blocks and stuff with the weather being as beautiful as it had been since the onset of this, I think. A lot of people with the kids walking around. I see them a lot of times coming by the station. We're all standing out there, if we're out there talking to them, saying, hey, kids and stuff. So I haven't seen anything different. The only thing different I'm seeing right now is that now we're tasked with, and that's fine, we accept that, but we're tasked with now ensuring compliance beyond just people congregating 10 strong, just like we do with Big Daddies. Make sure the people are out there. There's not more than people than 10 at a time crowded up inside, and they're all wearing masks. We got numerous times with the management. They've been in compliance there. There hasn't been any other issues regarding citizenry or anything. Everybody's out walking around, and the weather's been cooperative. And I think, as the manager alluded to a little while ago, we're not having, knock wood, we're not having those issues that other areas seem to be having. You know, where the people are just not putting on the masks, they're not listening. There's an issue there. We're not having that issue, fortunately.
Have we put up, this is for the manager and for the chief, have we put up maybe throughout the police station and maybe in the front, some of the CDC guidelines?
Yes.
Posters? And do we have the new OSHA posters up for the employees that have that have the CDC with COVID-19 new guidelines on them?
No, we don't have the new
Not the
OSHA. Yeah, but we can order them. You know, we're up to date on all of our labor, law posters, but we don't have a COVID one, so I can order that.
I think they recently just came out, and I think they actually came out for different industries. So to see, so we could, maybe there's one for police and one for government and one for offices, but they just came out about a few weeks ago.
Okay, well, or look into that and order it.
And throughout the police department, I mean, I haven't been there, so we have like the CDC
yeah.
guidelines and things like that. Okay.
Yes.
Lots of
Yeah.
postings.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
The last thing I'm gonna point about COVID I wanted to cover, and then I'm gonna ask the committee if they have any questions on what we've discussed, is with the stats that we get, maybe we should add a line with regards to COVID-19 compliance.
We could do that, sure.
If you guys are finding that you have to do maybe verbals or writtens, or I don't know how you would monitor that, but maybe it would be a kind of good way to tally, especially as this is only phase one. You know, at some point the parks are going to open. At some point, at some point the playground's going to open, the pavilion, and there's still going to be regulations in place for that. So maybe, started practicing as of now when it's a little easier, because we don't really have that much in terms of parks or businesses, but for them to start monitoring and being aware of it.
Sure, I can do that. Not a problem.
Okay.
I mean, I have still more to cover, but with what we discussed, does the committee have any questions or any comments with some of the points that we discussed about COVID-19? Again, I still have a slew of things that I want to go through, but this is the basic that we started off with.
No questions here. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have a question. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The first thing is, with the knowing that we have about, I think the chief said 10 to 15 weeks. If this is kind of like what, quote unquote, like the new normal, should we be ordering some more masks, or starting to try to get on it now if we can, so that when it comes towards the end, if this thing is going to last for another year or whatever, we're not kind of scrambling around at that time. We can kind of just get on it now. So
Yes, sir. That's what we are doing. That we're doing that each and every day. We're looking to get more and more from different sources. And we're not standing pat, is what I'm saying. Right now, this is what we have if we did nothing else. But we are continuing to do just that, to get more and more masks.
And my second question is, with the whole thing with that the mayor was just talking about with compliance and things like that, is there a protocol, or is there kind of like a something that police have, or something that maybe is coming down from different police agencies or things like that, as far as what the steps are with, if you pass by and people aren't congregating with the right amount of numbers, and people aren't wearing their masks, you pass by and say, hey, you guys, you guys have to put your mask on, you got to congregate. And they're kind of like, all right. And then you leave and you come back around like 15 minutes later, they're still not what do you do? Like, is there a time when you do make an arrest? How many times is it before you make an arrest? Is like arrest kind of like out of the court? Like, is there anything with that?
It's a good question, because ultimately enforcement has to be taken, or we're never going to progress to the second phase. It has to be taken. Now, I understand what you're saying. It's almost like if you had a couple guys standing on the corner drinking a beer. Hey man, you can't drink in public, man. Pour that out. Let's go. And they come back again. Well, now it's you almost have to do something. Or if they're going to start saying, no, I'm not wearing the mask. Well, then you're right. You don't have to, but get out of the park. And if they're going to if they're going to disobey a lawful order, then, you get to a point where you really don't want to have to go down this road. And you're asking yourself in the back of your head, why are we going down? Why is this happening? But you have to take action. Because if you don't, everything's going to fall apart. You just have to. There is nothing that says how many warnings you're going to give, what's going to take place, how you're going to rectify this. But you have to rectify it because you brought it to somebody's attention. It's a legal law. It's an ordinance, but it's a legal law in an emergency situation. Most people are going to say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. That's fine. But the one that's going to be defiant, I think the police have to take action. Do they have to take a ride down to TGK? Well, maybe you could sign them out and go home. I mean, you would hate to have to take somebody down to TGK when the director of the jail's hearing across the country saying, unless you have to really, let's not flood our jails right now. But you can't, and I'll tell you this from the heart about what I'm seeing across the country. You can't allow this defiance to grab hold, or we're going to have a problem. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not going to get to levels that I'm seeing in other places. I get that. But somewhere along the way, we're there to enforce the law. We didn't write the law. We enforced the legal laws. These are legal laws in an emergency situation. We can't just debate it all night with somebody. You don't want to wear the mask, you have to leave the park. You don't want to leave the park, you're defying an order. And, listen, we get paid. Sometimes we don't look like the good guys with the actions we have to take. And I get it, but we have to do something.
Listen,
At least that's what I would tell my men. And,
it boils down to something very simple, and that is it's zero tolerance. This is not something you can diddle-daddle over, because you can't diddle-daddle over law. Lawyers write the ordinances, policymakers legislate it like we do, and the police officers are enforcing it. That's zero. Once you start diddle-daddling, you can do this, you can do that, then it will be in this forever cycle that we're in today. So what I would recommend, which is why I asked to put it on the on your stat sheet, is because if if you see Claudia walking down the street and you have said, please put a mask on, and I'm completely defiant, and I don't, and I disrespect the law, you disrespected the law. That's it. Now, the county mayor has been very specific, said there's zero tolerance. No. Do we want to go out and arrest people? No, that is not the objective. The objective is, hey, you know what? I take care of you, you take care of me. If the law says you have to have a face covering on, then you have to have a face covering on. If you're in your property, in front of your own property, your property. But if you're in the public space is monitored by the law enforcement of that municipality. Because keep in mind that we all have family that live in different parts of this Miami-Dade County. So we have family that may live in Doral, that may live in Miami Gardens, that may live in Coral Gables, that may live in North Miami. Well, you go to the North Miami Park, well, but I do that in El Portal. No, there's a reason why the county mayor puts forward an emergency order that all municipalities must follow. All you can do is do something more strict, but you can't do anything less. The minimum standard is what the county puts forward. That's it. So if we want to make it completely stricter than that, yes, but make it more lenient, no. And what I would believe that you would do in a situation like this is that your police officer, well, clearly they may not get the same person over and over, but they're aware of what the repeat offenders are. That's why I am sure now we issue friendly citations if your trash can is in the front. Because, hey, guess what? If you issue a trash can citation to Claudia 3 times, you're going to give her a ticket. Clearly, she's not listening to what the law says. You got to bring your trash cans in. So I would think that something along the lines is going to have to be what the police department, if you want a chief say, we're going to give you a verbal warning and then a written and then an actual ticket. There's a difference between a verbal, a citation, and a ticket, and then you get arrested. Very different. But I think that process is something that depends how defiant the person in the street wants to be. But the reality is that this is not something we want to diddle-daddle over. It's something that we all have to respect and take seriously so that we can all move past this. That would what I would encourage how we take it, because that's really how the order in the county is written, that it's zero tolerance.
That was the orders I gave the officers. They're well aware of that. If there's people in defiance, they'll be dealt with.
All right, so I just wanted to make sure that all the officers were basically on the same page. I just didn't want, that you have one officer, a couple officers that are doing it one way, and then one officer is much more, lean, and one officer. So I just hope that all the officers in the department are saying exactly what you and the mayor are saying, because what you guys are saying right here is perfect. I just want all the officers to be on the same page so that they're all dealing with the citizens of El Portal in the exact same fashion. That's all.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Chief. Thank you very much, Madam.
Chief, to that point, is this something that when you did a training with your department, did you cover with them? And if you did, is it in writing where they signed off on that they received this training for COVID-19 and they're up to speed?
In the chief's message, they all got it. There's red receipts. They didn't sign it, but they all got the message, yes. And what's expected of them, how the law enforcement's changing, but really what we're going to have to do if they're in defiance, and some of the actions that we're going to have to take if we're going to be successful in phase 1, yes.
Any other questions from the committee on so far this segment of COVID-19 that we've talked about?
No, Madam Mayor, thank you.
Let's see, what was the next thing? The other thing I wanted to talk about with police is, as we all are aware, the manager sent us an email, and it's very unfortunate that a code enforcement officer is out for 4 to 6 weeks. We don't know the time frame. And I know that in the email, the manager stated that it would be up to the police now. So has there been a discussion in the police department with how this is going to be handled? And if so, can we get a little briefing on that?
I was not aware that the length at this point, but I did bring up a couple of weeks ago that with everything being shut down, that we were going to have to pick up on the code enforcement. We did do a couple areas where we did, when Mr. King came back, we gave him some information off something off 85th Street. And I told the officers now we're going to have to be more proactive in the code enforcement issues as they come in. As we see them, first of all, if they come in, we're definitely going to have to deal with them as they come in. We'll take a look at the code enforcement issues as best as we can on the training that we have for these things. But the other code enforcement, there's a lot of code enforcement issues that we can deal with, and we're going to pick up the slack. Obviously, that's what we have to do. But that was put in place before Mr. King and some of the issues that he has right now. That was put in play when the front office was getting shut down for a period of time when this first struck. That was the instructions I gave the officers for us to pick up on code enforcement.
Christy, I don't know if you have another game plan in place, maybe like, how you got somebody temporary for Angel. I don't know if you're going to do that for Amir, or are we going to be, because we don't know how long he's going to be out.
Right. We know we know it's going to be a bit. It's going to be no less than 4 weeks. So I haven't decided how to do that yet. The replacement was from a temp company. That's different. I would have to find someone a little more specialized to do code enforcement. And for that, I'm really prefer to look over our finances and before I do something like that, I have to pay for that. So it's on my mind, but I haven't figured out how we're going to handle the code enforcement. So I'm happy that police is stepping up, to help them until we can come up with a solution. Maybe I can borrow someone from another municipality or something, but I'll have to, review.
And I guess to just, it's unfortunate because during this time, I think one of the things we need to just be on the lookout is there's been a lot of repeat offenders. I've sent you guys a lot of emails
Mhm.
with people taking advantage of this time and doing specific
Right.
instructions that they may not have permits for. So maybe if your police officer could keep their eyes peeled for certain things that, kind of like the common or the most common things that they would, the residents may, do because there's, no code enforcement officer out there. So just be sure that that they're aware and, and let them know that we're thankful and appreciate. And so the manager could come up with another solution depending on how long the mayor is going to be out.
Okay.
But yeah, my thought process that he's going to be out for a bit as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm. But before he left, he did put into place, he got some software that assisted us. You were part of the whole, communication chain about the abandoned or vacant homes that were being used by squatters. So he's gotten the software set up for us to start tracking, homes that are vacant. And so you can, instead of having to get back into BSNA and check all of these things, you can just pull up information quickly.
And we did work with him on that. We got two places taken care of that had some squatters that we received calls on, and we jumped on that right away, and we returned the next day, and we were able to get one person out that had previously been arrested a week before. So we're on top of these issues within that area. This was again on 89th Street, I believe, last week. With these squatters, and that's something we're keeping an eye out. And I know Mr. King was giving us a bunch of addresses now that we can proactively go over there and at nighttime and see who's going in there and what's going on. And so that's been helpful to us. But we'll return the favor and pick up the slack.
Thank you.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit more about COVID-19 as it relates to us. I'm going to slightly transition over to hurricane preparedness, but there's a common denominator. There's two common denominators that I want to talk about with COVID-19 and hurricane preparedness. And one is communication and one is money and finances. And again, it really covers both of them. So the question I have or the recommendation or the comment is with COVID-19. And finances, because COVID-19 is going to impact the way we do business for a bit, and it's going to impact the way that we may move forward, whether the time is going to be short term, long term, no matter what it is, it's going to be here with us. And one of the reasons, there's two reasons why I'm bringing this up right now. Number one, because Public Works and Code Enforcement was canceled. And number two, because this is the emergency management team, and this is the time to have this conversation so that the public can hear. And my first point is that there's a cost to everything. And with COVID-19, not only is the impact going to be on what it is going to cost the village to have Zoom meetings, but there's been a cost to be able to not provide the service that people in our town pay taxes for. So we've had to cut back on Public Works, we've had to cut back on code enforcement, planning. You take a look at the whole scope of what we have cut back on. And when you take a look at the scope of what you cut back on, we have to take a look at how can we communicate that message to the residents, because all they know is COVID-19. We don't have an online ability to do these things, and then we cancel meetings. And how are we getting how are we getting the message to the residents? And so my point is, and why I bring up COVID-19 and hurricane preparedness, because it's all tied in together. It's money. So I say that with COVID-19, we have to really. I've asked the clerk and probably 25 emails in the last 3 or 5 days with regards to what is the cost to do this meeting. Members of the council, residents in the community like to say, oh, it's a lot of money. Well, define a lot. What does a lot mean? So the clerk can shake her head and says, I've sent a lot of emails because I want to get a breakdown of what a lot is actually, what is a lot equivalent to. And from what I've gathered, there seems to be a lot of, I still have a little ambiguity with the answers that I'm getting. Full Moon has been with us for a little over a year. They've done great work. they've had to really move on and hop on to do these meetings now, and from one day to the other, all of our lives rapidly changed. So when we take a look of what it costs to have a meeting at the Village Hall, we were looking at about maybe $295, but that did not include the transcribing of the minutes that we get. A council meeting, from what the clerk sent to me today, the transcribing of the minutes is another $130. And for committees is about $80. So when you look at the totality to do a meeting at the Village Hall, and right now I'm going to use an example as a committee meeting, you're looking at $295, plus you're looking at the transcribing of the minutes could be another $80, $85. When you look at the online version, we're looking at about $500 for a totality of 3 hours. And that includes Facebook Live, that includes uploading of the video, and that also includes upload of YouTube. That does not include the transcribing of the minutes. So you're looking at a difference of $205 more on an average to have a committee meeting and a council meeting, depending how long we talk. Since the other committees cancel, I'm going to use up the time because all these conversations are very important. So you're looking at about $200 more. And at the end of the day, while $200 is a lot, to me, this information that we're giving out is worth a lot more. So I'll tell the management, if you don't have the $200, you can take it out of my discretionary. But these meetings have to be had, because we need to let the residents know what's happening in public works, what's happening in code enforcement. And hey, by the way, what is going to be the way forward? Because if you're not going to put a letter in the newsletter and you're not really reaching the residents, then how are you letting them know how the way forward is? It's important. And how are you going to do it? That's why we have committee meetings. There's a cost to doing business. I understand $200 may not what we want to pay a little more. My recommendation that I mentioned to the clerk today, and I'm going to mention to ask you all, I hope you all have the admin and finance meeting, and we'll get into that in a minute. But the reality is that the transcribed minutes at that $80 or $130 is not necessary, because all the meetings are on YouTube. All the meetings are on our website. Transcribing the minutes is not necessary per government. It's not necessary at all. What is necessary is to document what the resolution votes were, what the ordinance votes were, and other decisions that are going to, all the agenda items that require a decision and what's going to happen forward. So we want to look at savings. Let's talk real dollars on how we can actually save money. And while at the same time, let's not no longer stop communicating to the residents, because as it is, they've already gone 5 to 7 weeks without really having any service in the planning department and the building department, which was rightfully so. The managers did the right thing. It was in the safety of the residents and the safety of the staff. But we must communicate what the way forward is going to be and what that's going to look like. And the time to do it is at these meetings. And why am I saying that? I'm saying that because we have admin and finance approaching very soon. My recommendation too, because I have the chair here, my recommendation is, now that I've gotten a rundown of what these Zoom meetings really cost, and it's going to be $500 for 3 hours, and I think there's a little uptake to for the second committee meeting of maybe $75. My recommendation is, hey, there's a planning and zoning meeting next week. The admin and finance, instead of doing it in the third week, do it the second week. But I would hate to see the admin and finance meeting canceled, because if there is one meeting that cannot be canceled, is admin and finance. There's way too much to discuss. There's way too much that has transpired, and COVID-19 has impacted all of our lives financially, business and personal. And the time to have that conversation is in the emails. Excuse me, it's in the meeting. We cannot be canceling the admin and finance. My recommendation is going to be to please have that admin and finance meeting next week, which is when I have a planning and zoning set for. You do it right afterwards. Planning and zoning, I'm going to have one agenda item. There's more than enough time to be able to have the admin and finance meeting. I believe the councilperson Roman, who chairs public affairs, sent an email to the manager and the clerk saying that, hey, I don't need to have a public affairs meeting. Let me just speak for 2 minutes at the admin and finance, and that saves a little money. And we can have 2 meetings next week within 3 hours. These are the conversations that I think is necessary and important to have, and not just canceling meetings to cancel meetings without having real data before us with total cost of dollars. So I asked the chair I have not seen any type of cancellation, but with hurricane preparedness on our heels, with COVID-19 still not going anywhere, the time to talk about the money is today. It is not for us to wait what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. The other thing that is also important is that as I tear into hurricane preparedness, which is why I wanted to talk about the money in COVID-19, is Hurricane Preparedness Week has started now. It's May 3rd through May 9th. And I've already asked our website manager to upload it. If you go on the main page, it has a reminder to all the residents that hurricane preparedness is now the 3rd through the 9th. If you click onto it, it gives you a whole list of what you should do in May, what you should do in June, and what you should do in July. But my question to the Chair of Admin and Finance, who I have here today, is the concern that I have, and I have been working while I work on this matter every day with the manager for the last 2 years, is Hurricane Irma reimbursement. I took a look at the last admin and finance meetings and tracking reports in the last couple of months and even the last year. I don't see anywhere on there any dialogue of the Hurricane Irma reimbursement. Why do I say that? I say that because number one, it's vitally important to the sustainability of our entire village. And number two, I don't know how that hasn't been discussed. So my point is that while we have hurricane preparedness on the heels of all of us right now, and I don't know if any of you have read the news, but it's saying that it is going to be a very active season. It concerns me. And it concerns me that the Admin and Finance Committee meeting has not talked about it. And yes, we can say that there has been alleged rumors and, you know, the mayor or the manager. Listen, all of those alleged rumors clearly is not true because we're all sitting here today. My point is that, and I've said in a few emails to the manager and a group with all of the people that we work with, you know, we've brought in the lobbying team to help us. We work with the contractor that we initially hired. It's got to be all hands on deck. And when I say all hands on deck, I don't mean all hands on deck that you double check what the work that the manager has done, because all of that has been done 5 times over. When I say all hands on deck, it is for all of us. And when I say all of us, 5 council members to work as a united force to Tallahassee and ask the right questions. In September of last year, I specifically said at the council meeting, I'm sorry, maybe September or October at the council meeting, but I said, it's time that we all work together. The Miami Herald audited all of the work that that the village of El Portal did. Lillian Pico audited all of the work, came in and had 100 questions. Sarah Blasky came in and had 100 questions. We don't need anybody, well, let me rephrase that. Any resident can do that. But I would behoove, and I really ask to the council and to the chair of the Admin and Finance to bring it up at the next committee meeting, that what are you all doing to work together to help the manager with Irma? I haven't seen a single email. I haven't seen a single letter. Well, I'm going to rephrase that. A council person in Roman, I've seen she just wrote a letter to Jerry Moskowitz. I will say that if that happened last week or the week before, I don't remember. But my point is, it is time we do it. It is time we do it because hurricane season is right around the corner. And this is not should be something that the onus falls only on the mayor and it falls only on the manager. It is a responsibility of all of us to be able to work together. And keep in mind, when you chair a committee or vice chair a committee, that's your responsibility. Your responsibility is to find out how you can help the department, how you can help the committee. It is not to give more work by asking questions and wanting self-audit things that have been audited 100 times over. It is to really be a part of the solution, be a part, not part of the perpetual problem that has lingered and is hurting the village. It is hurting the village. The manager and I have been working for 7 weeks now to refinance the loan because right now interest rates are all-time low, all-time low. These are the things that I ask that we need to take a better look at Can't cancel meetings. We have to have these conversations. COVID-19 right now. And by the way, this may be a new form that we're going to have to do business for a little while. Because, hey, by the way, if you got to wear masks, how are we all going to sit in the dais together? Can't. This is probably going to be our little new normal, which is why I spoke to the clerk and I did speak to a few emails. I want to get a real breakdown of what it's going to cost to have these meetings on a day in and on a month in and a month out basis, because they're going to become a part of way of life for right now, as long as the governor allows it. And we can get a lot of work done this way. But I will say it over and over. I think I have 2 members of the finance committee. I'm saying it in a public record. You all really need to put it on your agenda. You need to put it on your tracking report. And when I say put it on tracking report, is not that you ask the manager every month, is what are you doing? What is each member in the council doing? We have a primary fiduciary responsibility as elected individuals to manage, also help the money. And I've asked the manager, we're going to have to get, listen, there may be, if there is a hurricane, the manager and I have already been talking about, what is going to be the alternative solution? 3 years ago, the village of El Portal got immediate service because we spent the money to do so. But keep in mind that right now it may have to be that, we're going to have to use the county. The manager and I have been looking at, what is that going to look like? Because that part of the responsibility is we have to prepare, and we have to really take a look at what is that going to cost and what is that going to look like for the village, because these are all real hard conversations that have to be had. And the only time to have it is now at committee meetings. This is the only time. Can't have it in email. Can't pick up the phone and call me. This is the time to have a real conversation about how we're going to really move forward. Because when I take a look at hurricane preparedness, and I take a look at what's on the heels of all of us, it is our responsibility to make sure that we work together to get as much done as we can. I think I lost the manager. Oh, no, sure she is. Did I lose somebody? No. So hurricane preparedness. Hurricane preparedness. So as I already mentioned, I've already made sure that's on the website. I'm going to take a look at an email blast to let residents know what they need to do for May to get ready in June and July. My questions to the manager and to the chief are what, from the perspective of the village in terms of procurement, where are we at? What do we need? What are some of the things that you all are thinking of doing for May? As again, hurricane preparedness starts June 1st. So if you guys can give a little rundown as far as some of the things that you guys are already working about and talking about to get us the village prepared for hurricane preparedness.
Yeah, I'll start that, Chief. The villages already engaged our tree trimming to commence the week of June 15th to coincide with the bulk trash pickup, so that those clippings can be picked up with our bulk. We already have our contracts for water. We have our internal emergency procedures and protocols in place, with staff being all trained on it. And we went through the document extensively, but we're ready as far as we can be. In terms of financing this, that's the different story. And for that, I have been trying to work with the county on getting the MOU in place, but it's been tug of war with getting responses from Public Works and Transportation to complete that, but I'm still on it, and I'm hopeful that that's going to move quickly, and I'll bring that forward. But that MOU needed to be reactivated anyway. I was just trying to add in some more hurricane or some more disaster recovery items in that MOU. We are working on like I said, the internal protocols. We worked with Complete Care to make sure that we are set for in case of evacuation and anything that comes from that. And that's it. That's what we have for now. I did a request for proposals over a year ago to get our hurricane management team in place, as well as the debris management contractor in place. So they are at the ready as well. And I've already, I'll need to follow up with DP&O, but because we talk to her quite often, I will just reach out to her again to say, and remember, we have to be ready for anything that comes up. in the coming hurricane season. But our tree trimming, which is custom tree, have already been activated. They know that they're ready to come and work with us. So we have internal protocols. That's water delivery, equipment. We have some things in storage that are already been purchased. That's batteries, sandbags. If I have my list here, just a number of things: flashlights, flares, first aid supplies, hotspots, fuel containers, a generator. So we do have those things in place, and whenever we get the go-ahead from the county or from OEM or the National Weather Services about incoming weather, that's when we activate Public Works to bring all of those things into the Village Hall out of our storage. So we're ready for that in that respect. You're on mute, Mayor.
Still have this, do we have still the sandbags that you purchased a little while back?
Yes,
So maybe we need to take a look at a source for the sand.
yes.
Okay, I have a couple of questions, but I wanted to hear the chief out a little bit. Chief.
Well, basically, we're following exactly what the manager's doing. What we are doing differently, or in addition, I should say, we're in contact with the county to gain COVID-19 items, but with the same people we're using, Ms. Alvarez from the county, we can also start putting in some orders that we may need, pallets of order, things like that, that we're working on with the county as well, just in preparation. A couple of months ago, I was working with the manager who came up with a checklist for the emergency preparedness plan, just a checklist. And I came up with something, a pre-hurricane season checklist, which is, this is the time right now. You know, April got sort of knocked off the tracks because of COVID. But there's a number of items that I found of importance, and just looking at it right now, certainly the social media aspect of it and staying on top as things come out, that we would certainly stay strong on the social media content with reminders. And this would be about their time to get people on track. And it's going to be usually difficult to get people focused even in June when hurricane season starts. This year it's going to be even more so with COVID going on. But I think now is the time to start doing it and reminding people that even with COVID, it has no bearing on hurricane season. We need to start getting ready and getting into that mindset. It's going to be two parallel tracks, and there's no other way around it. It's pardon the pun, but it could be the perfect storm. And so people need to start thinking about that, and perhaps even pushing that for those that are home or for those that are quarantined. This is the perfect time to start shoring up your house and getting things ready for that while you can do it. And just try to do that through social media. So we had some social media discussions from the police point of view, but otherwise we're right in line with what the village manager said.
Mayor, also just to piggyback on that about the communication, as the EMT, Mayor, the chief and manager, as the emergency management team, we did come up with the well, we didn't come up with it. It's a communication protocol that I think is important to share. Like we've been utilizing that for COVID, but I think it's important also to let our community know too that messages will be coming from the EMT, the mayor, the manager, and the chief in the format of executive order or memorandum that goes to the clerk, who will disseminate to the council and to her e-blast, and then it goes on to the village website. Staff is alerted, police officers are alerted, and then they put that on social media. So that's another thing. We just have to reiterate that, you know, this is the way we communicate during emergency, and it's important that people, you know, visit the website if necessary and watch for those alerts and social media.
Yeah, I want to add to that two things. So, hands down, you know, aside from the money being fundamentally the most important thing that we are responsible for, the second is communicate what we do and how we do it and how it impacts the town more than anything. And I do believe that during a disaster, communication needs to be escalated to another level, because people are most concerned, and our primary responsibility during a disaster is the safety and well-being of every single person that lives here. With that said, and going on what the manager just said, we made sure that the communication protocol that, while I think it had been in place, but it hadn't really been solidified where everybody had a good understanding of it, I think it's important that it's codified in the plan, even though it's not, you know, in an ordinance base, but the plan that the Village of El Portal now has, that it's on there. And more importantly, that we're all on the same page as it relates to that, where there is a message that there's an email that's put out from the emergency management team. The clerk is responsible to ensuring that, number one, the council receives, number two, the residents receive. And then the chief not only sends it to his El Portal officers to include the part-timers, but also whoever the representative is sends it to all the block captains for Crime Watch, and then the Crime Watch block captains send it to their email, their list of people in their entire block. And then the managers will send it to her entire staff. If we did this consistently, the amount of people we can touch and reach is exponentially fantastic. And now that's leaving out that every person on the council, you have your own reach. You have your 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 people that you may have either phone numbers or you have emails. Start compiling your list and how you're going to say, hey, this message is important. I don't know if they're on the email blast, but hey, you know what? This message is going to go out. It's the way to have a united message, and it's the way to all be on the same page, and it mitigates gossip, it mitigates confusion, and it mitigates what is doing and he is doing and what is not doing, and I don't understand what the village is doing. And I know during this is the second disaster I've had to deal with as the mayor, and I can say that the one recurring theme that I've received or I've seen or I've heard through management when Christia, when the manager chief and I have our meetings during this time is, you know, the village council doesn't know what to do or they're not aware of. I'm going to say this. There's so much to be done during a crisis. And the first and foremost is you always want to say, you know, how can I help? It never helps to get emails where you may be telling the emergency management that you think we're doing a terrible job. That doesn't really help the morale at the moment. And these things happen. You all have a discretionary fund. If you have a resources, if you have a resource for food, hey, and you want to deliver food, do that. If you have a resource for masks and you want to do that, do that. It's your discretionary fund. But I really ask, and I behoove the council that, you know, when there's a crisis and there's a lot going on and we don't have a lot of staff, just think of how you can help, and you let the manager know, hey, I can help in this format and do this. One of the things that we've talked about in our meetings is, you know, actually delegating it to the council. But the point is this: when there's an emergency, we don't know the route that the council or the administration is going to take. Because, hey, some of us have families, and well, we all have families, but some of us might be in a position where we must leave with the children or we must do this. All that is factored in. But there's an assumption to be made that when you're the manager and you're the chief and you're the mayor, you're gonna have to be here. You know, I mean, family is family, but you know, there's something to be said when you're in that position. You're gonna have to be here. And hey, and guess what? If for some reason whoever the mayor may be and the mayor can't be there, hey, listen, it was gonna be the vice mayor. You know, so understand it's never to leave anybody, any council member out, but it's just to ensure that we just go on autopilot where we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. And hey, it's not to say that if you all don't have a great idea that you think could be done better, or hey, you know, I want to help with that. By all means, if you have a great idea that's going to help with communication, that's going to help with the process, that's going to help bring in supplies that we may need, by all means, I guarantee you, and I could be wrong, that the manager would welcome it. But it has to be a part of the solution, not recommending what they would do better when we're in the middle of a crisis. So I think that's really important for all of us to work together a little better on, because these things happen, and it's it's never intention to be rude or cut anybody off of communication, but immediately we're just trying to deal with what we know we have to deal with, what's in front of us and what's going to happen next. But it's never to say that you don't have a great idea and that you definitely cannot share it with the manager. And I'll give you a point in case. It was a Saturday, Sunday. I had a contact for masks. I got 200. manager didn't ask me to do that. The chief didn't ask me to do that. I just knew the village was going to need masks. I know we have a police department, so I just got some. So same thing applies to all of you. I didn't do that because I'm the mayor. Any of us can do that. If we all know someone that has a contact and you know it's something that we could use, run it by the manager if there's a cost to it. So just keep that in mind, that there's so many ways to be able to communicate and collaborate during the crisis that the entire council can put forward with if they want to be able to be a part or do something. There's always something to do. The chief, I wanted to give a recommendation that I thought may be a good idea, is that we rely on communication, we rely on the limited resources that we have, but what I thought may be a really good idea to potentially, maybe even through a Zoom meeting, is let's have a Zoom meeting with all of our block captains, so that, you know, while I thought this is a great way to protocol, I think it's important that they know what's expected, or if they even want that responsibility, because we've put on that they've become part of our emergency protocols chain, and that we expect or hope that they will disseminate that through the entire block. But what if they're not? What if they don't know that's what's expected out of them? And what if they don't know, like, that's what we're hoping that they're going to do during any type of a disaster? So I thought maybe if we can plan, if Officer Battaglia can plan a block captain, a Zoom meeting, or, because I don't think it's going to be an in-person meeting anytime soon, that the manager, you and I, can be a part of, or something preliminary to start that dialogue going, so that they're becoming more familiar, and we get a better understanding if they even want to be a part of that protocol process that I want to sort of, you know, cement and put in place, because I think it's important that we have something like that in place for any disaster that we have. As far as the communication and what we've discussed with hurricane preparedness, I'm going to open it up to the committee if they have any questions Councilperson Roman, Vice Mayor Nickerson, any questions to what we just discussed? Questions, comments, or anything?
No questions, just, that was a lot. But going back to the admin and finance meeting, I, you know, depending on what the chair thinks, I have no problems in doing it next week.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
thank you very much. I appreciate that. As far as the Administration and Finance Committee meeting, I'll be making that decision as every other chair. I'll be sending out an email about it once I make the decision as chair, as every other chair does. But as far as what you were saying earlier about auditing, you were saying that people were asking for an audit. I don't know, that wasn't me, so I don't know who that was asking the manager for audit. You were saying that people weren't helping out, but they were asking for an audit. That wasn't me, so I don't know about that. As far as the thing about the tracking report and the FEMA reimbursement not being on the tracking report, the reason why the FEMA reimbursement was not on the tracking report was because I was under the impression that there was an investigation going on. I mean, I don't know if I'm right or wrong about that. And so when there's an investigation or anything that has to do with legal situations, I don't bring it out like that to the public, because there might be things that we can't talk about. Just like when there's like an open case, there's a lot of things you just can't talk about. So I apologize if that's my fault, because I was always told there's an open case, there's an investigation for the FEMA reimbursement, and therefore that's why I didn't bring it up, because I was going to wait to see how everything kind of like turned out. So once the investigation is over, and then when we get the results of the investigation, then from that point on, we can go from there, because then we have facts of how much money we're getting back. Are we getting back any money? Are we getting back all the money? So then we can go from there. We can start to make those decisions and conversations. So I just didn't want to jump on anything too soon, because things just aren't completed yet when it comes to that. Also, we have and just speaking on that, I mean, it's going to come up. We have the manager recently emailed us about the loan situation. the loan and how the loan renewal, how that's going. And I'm not going to talk about that right now, but that has a lot to do with things going forward, going into like the next hurricane season and things like that. That's going to affect that maybe in a major way. And I understand what you're saying about the emails, but as far as, and the manager will tell you, I talk to her on a consistent basis for hours on a consistent basis. So we get all of that information done. It doesn't have to be through emails it doesn't have to be through emails with the manager, because the thing about it is that I can't talk to anybody on the council because that's a sunshine violation. So, I mean, I could sit there and say, okay, well, I could either phone call the manager and we can get that hour-and-a-half conversation done within an hour and a half, or I can take up her day just emailing her back and forth, just me and her, me and her, me and her. Now, if it was something that where we're all included, yeah, I can't get and have like a conference phone call with everybody. So then like email would be better when it comes to that. But when it comes to the information that I have to get, because we have to remember that the Administration and Finance Committee, the manager is like pretty much like the quasi co-chair. She runs the administration on a day-to-day basis. She's more on a day-to-day basis tuned in with what happens administratively within the village. So my connection with her and my phone calls with her are just that. And then because of Sunshine, after I gathered that information with her, then through the committee and things like that, I relate it to everybody else, because I can't talk to you guys if it's not, you know, if it's not in an open forum or anything like that. But you know, the reason why I haven't brought up the reimbursement is because of the investigation that's going on, and nothing but the investigation. If the investigation ended today, it would be on the tracking report next meeting. So that's how that goes. And I'm glad you reached out about the Zoom meetings. You can ask the clerk. I reached out and I, even with the manager, I was talking about this weeks ago. I was talking about this before we even had the first Zoom meeting. And they were telling me how, with the virtual meetings, how it's, you know, it's $500 for the first 3 hours, but 1 hour of those 3 hours is the setup hour. So it's really $500 for the first 2 hours. And then every hour after that, I believe, is $100 per hour after the first 2 hours of the actual meeting, because it's 3 hours on paper, but they actually use 1 hour for a setup. So it's for 2 hours, $500 for the first 2 hours, and then $100 every hour after that. And there's a more to that with the breakdown of the Zoom meetings. And that I'm not bringing that to say that that's the reason why I wouldn't have my meeting or anything like that. I'm just saying that I don't know, maybe I got some information I was wrong, but I got this information. All this information in my chicken scratch. I got this information a couple weeks ago. I reached out and got the information. And I know what you're saying about the clerk, because I apologize to Ms. Jacoby. She was working hard. I had her calling Full Moon and emailing them back and forth and things like that to get all this information. So, but as far as the biggest thing that you were talking about with the FEMA reimbursement is only because of the investigation. Thank you, ma'am.
So I want to add a couple of things. Number one, if you've gotten a formal letter that's saying that we're actually in investigation, then I kindly ask you to show it to the manager, because we've received a lot of rumors and, oh, you know, this and that, but none of that has come back to concrete. So that's just number one. And even though they may say that, or whoever they is, because they has never come out to really fruition, because nobody responds to any email that the manager sends. And if they have, she's never shared it with me. And I doubt that that's the case. So not either way, we still have a responsibility to stay on top of that, because people are not answering our questions. If there's a problem, it cannot take 2 years to show us the problem. So if there's an investigation, it cannot take 2 years to show it. It just means that, you know, and I'm going to ask the attorney to give his opinion in a second, but the reality is that even if there's something, even if you have the impression that there's an investigation, it still be part of the tracking report, because it shows that we're tracking it, that is always present in our mind. But the reality is, until we're not shown actual investigative paperwork that either the company, the village, whatever the case would be, to me, it's alleged. And the attorney can define what alleged means. That's alleged. Number two, you said that you're not sure if you're going to have an admin and finance meeting. As the mayor, I can serve as an ad hoc for quorum. And if you don't, I'm going to make sure that there is one, because there needs to be one. You just said all that's going on in admin and finance, and when are we going to talk about it? I know very well what's going on, because I'm the one that asked the manager and the CFO to get that loan refinanced, because we're at an all-time low for the interest rate. I sent an email March 15th to the manager, to the CFO, and to the attorney saying, hey, you know what? Look at this article. It's at an all-time low. Let's get this loan refinanced. Let's get this loan refinanced. So it's a good opportunity to take a moment to get this loan refinanced, because the interest rates are all-time low. Now, I know what you're saying, but which is why, more than anything, we need to have an admin and finance committee meeting, because none of us can make the decision independently. We can't. It's not a unilateral. It's going to be a decision that's got to come to the committee. The entire committee needs to hear exactly what's going on, and they need to know that there's an option. Because hey, guess what? I sent a manager after her email today. I sent her a long email with a lot of questions. I haven't gotten a response from Raphael. But hey, you know what? Based on the answer that I'm going to get, maybe we need to take a look at the options. But even more so, knowing that we've had the loan for 3 years, even if as admin and finance committee, if you think there's something, it's still our responsibility to be on top of that. Because I disagree, and I'm going to ask the attorney. The manager is not a quasi-judicial. She doesn't run the admin and finance committee, because if the code thought that the administration should run the committee, there wouldn't be a committee. The electeds run the committee, not the administration. The electeds set the agenda, not the administration. And if they're doing that, that's incorrect. So it's important that we remember the charter says that the electeds sit on the committees. There's a reason why someone wrote the charter like that. If you all want to change that, you can make that recommendation. But I disagree. You know, if you sit in the admin and finance committee, you know, there's work to do. I disagree that the manager is a quasi-judicial. It's completely incorrect. And I'm going to ask the attorney for his opinion on that, and his opinion on the investigation before I move to the next thing.
Let me make sure I understand what you're asking for an opinion on. I mean, I think I understood the comment to be that he referred to the manager as a de facto member of the committee. Clearly, the charter only allows council people to sit on the committees. So any non-elected cannot serve on the committee. But I understood it just to mean I speak to the manager on an ongoing basis, and she's kind of like my right-hand person. So if that's the question, no one that's not an elected council person can sit on any committee. Obviously, the council can create ad hoc committees like you did with the Resiliency Task Force, where non-electeds can sit on those types of committees. With regard to the FEMA issue, there's nothing that prevents the Admin and Finance Committee, or any committee for that matter, to talk about the status of where the reimbursement process is, or even to determine what steps have been taken to seek reimbursement. You know, a lot of times when there are alleged investigations, councils will just pretty much not discuss them in public for fear of drawing attention to their meetings. But in this particular case, you know, I don't see any reason why, you know, general discussions about status and where we are in the process of seeking reimbursement, or what are we doing towards accomplishing getting reimbursed, would run afoul with that. So I hope I'm answering your question, because I don't even know if it's a legal question. I just, you know, there's nothing to preclude. I guess the short answer is there's nothing to preclude the Admin Finance Committee from discussing the current status or tracking where we are with the FEMA reimbursement.
Okay.
And
And
might I add too, Mayor, I at no time consider myself a part of the committee, but I think
Yeah.
the Vice Mayor was alluding to just that we talk very frequently and go over, a lot of administrative and finance things, and perhaps he's looking at me like Mr. Powell said, like as a right hand in telling him everything that's happening within the administration.
Absolutely. I think everybody understood that.
we have to look at it this way. Those conversations are great, but like Vice Mayor Nickerson said, he can't call me and tell me those conversations. So the only way that it becomes a shared and a conversation where we all can have an opinion on is if in this platform. That's why you have to have an admin and finance committee. Like for example, imagine if the EMT did all the work we did and we never communicated to anybody. Then what's the point of the work? So the point is that the committees are designed to workshop through the issues, and the committees are designed to be able to go through the issues. And as Vice Mayor Nickerson just said, that there's a lot going on in admin and finance. It bothers me or worries me that there's a thought of not even having an admin and finance meeting when there is so much to discuss in admin and finance right now. Because the impact that COVID's going to have for the next fiscal year budget needs to be discussed. I mean, you see us smiling. I don't know why you're smiling, but I mean, I would be very concerned about that right now. It is a concerning issue. And we have to take a look at how did COVID-19 impact now, and how is it going to impact next year? And while your conversations are great, you can make a unilateral decision. The decision is going to be at the committee, then it's going to go to the council. And if you're not going to have it in May, are you going to have a June council meeting? A June admin and finance meeting that's going to be a special one? Because by the way, the loan expires in June, July. You have to talk about it in May. So the fact that we're still in question about it, and I'm really going to cut it off for admin and finance, I'm not going to talk about it anymore, because what I did say was that I will, as ad hoc member, I will put forward because it's necessary, very necessary.
Well, I only smiled because I was in agreement, Mayor, with the fact that we have this loan situation. So it wasn't to smile to make light, the issues that are happening in El Portal, by no means.
I'm going to go, the committee doesn't have any more for hurricane preparedness. I think we've talked it out. I'm going to, I want to look to any list that you may have, Chief, because I want to email blast the list to the residents. I've already made sure it's on the website. But any preliminary list that you may have might be good. The only thing I wanted to talk about, to go to item number 3 before I go to questions, because Corey is patiently having his hand up. There was one item in the tracking report that I wanted to discuss. I have to update the tracking report to provide. There's a few things I'm going to remove, and there's a few things that I'm going to add. The only thing that I wanted to talk about was disaster preparedness, which we did. Can forfeiture funds be used to purchase items for disaster?
I would have to check on that. Usually there are things that are not normally budgeted for. I would have to check on that for disaster. What exactly would you have in mind? Because
I'm just thinking if there was an opportunity, I did it now.
I'm not sure. I have not seen it done, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. I can follow up on that. I'd have to find out. I'm just not sure on that.
The other question I had was, there was one more. Just to give an update on the circular rotunda that we've been talking about since last March when I met with Chair Edmondson. It's still on the table. Right when we were getting the news of the legislative session with regards to what was appropriated, COVID-19 hit us right there. So the circular rotunda for the west side is traffic calming. $300,000 was appropriated for that project. I have sent an email to Orlando Rubio and to the manager, but I do believe that I've asked Orlando Rubio for more of a what it's going to cost for him to give us a preliminary design, because this is going to have to be a project that we do together with Miami Shores and the county all together, because that intersection involves all of us. So I'm just going to follow up on the circular rotunda. That's still moving forward. So it's a little exciting because that is a traffic calming piece that we wanted to add for the safety for the kids and for the residents in the west side that always talked about the speeding. I don't know how where we're going to be at for August for National Night Out, but I do have a sponsor that has come forward to sponsor all of the backpacks and all of the supplies. I'm very excited about that. But if for some reason we're not able to do it in the format that we've done it in the past, then I guess the police officer will maybe dropping it off at the, I don't know, we'll have to think of how that's going to work out. That's in 2 months from now, but I wanted to say that I'll take a look at what's budgeted at the admin and finance, but I believe I got a sponsor to cover the entire cost of backpacks and supplies. I think that was the only thing on the track and report that I wanted to bring up, and I didn't know if the manager or the chief wanted to, if there was anything in particular the track and report that you wanted to touch on. But those are the couple of ones that I wanted to. And then I've added on the track and report the communication format that is not on there right now.
Okay.
And that's really it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if the chief and the manager wanted to add anything to the track and report.
No, I don't have anything.
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Does the committee have anything on the track and report that they want to add or they have a question about?
Madam Mayor, the only thing that from the trackering report, I know that you said you're going to be revising it. This is a conversation that I've had briefly with the manager. I think it would be a good idea to maybe budget for next year an update on the McGrath report. So maybe bringing in McGrath again to do an audit to see where we're at, and maybe making that an annual or something, or biannual, you know, every 2 years or something. But I think it's important to gauge where we're at.
Well, definitely when during budget time, which is literally right around the corner, we'll see if we have the money, because McGrath was about 15,000.
Yes,
I think
but it would be different than it was the last time, so it may be a little less.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too.
Vice Mayor Nickerson?
No, I don't have any questions about the tracking report. I think that I appreciate the attorney for saying what he said. I appreciate you, Madam Mayor, for saying what you're saying. I think that everybody who's watching this, I'm pretty sure that they understood what I was saying about the manager. As far as the manager deals with the administration on a daily basis, and I work hand in hand with her. I don't think that, I mean, I guess people can take things literally, or people, if they want to try to attack you, or if they want to try to do something, they're upset with you. I'm guessing you can take words and you can slice them any way you want, but I think that everybody here, I'm sure, got the sense of what I was saying. Also, you guys, it's very true what the mayor said. This is the only place that we can have these discussions. Therefore, if there was anything about the FEMA reimbursement that was up to par to where there was new information about that, I would have brought that through that committee. But there hadn't been new information. As a matter of fact, whenever me and the manager would talk, she would always say is I would ask her about it, and she'd say, "Oh, no, they're still, they're still going through the process. They're still going through the process. They haven't released the money yet." So I suppose I could get, because you made the sense and the main idea of your discussion was the why the FEMA reimbursement wasn't continuously brought up. I suppose I could have brought it up and said, "Hey, you guys, with the FEMA reimbursement, it's ongoing." So I really don't bring up information if it's not going to be new information, or it's not going to be information to where we can move forward with it. I mean, I can talk just to talk, but I don't like to waste people's time like that.
I'm going to close on this before I open up for data welfare. My question was to bring these items up to committee meetings, and what are you all doing about it? Not what the manager's doing, because I know what she's doing. She tells me, well, what is the committee doing? What are each of you doing? What are the responsibilities? What are we doing? But, I can sit here and do, listen to what the manager does. My question is, you keep it in a tracker report, because when you keep it in a tracker report, it makes the committee be like, oh, well, let me find out about that. And maybe I can write a letter. Or maybe, it's what is the committee doing? It's not what the manager's doing. It's not what the administration. I know what the manager's doing, but they generally tell me. I speak regularly with the administration. So I know that. It is what is, the committee is not only to direct what the administration does, but as a committee, what are you all doing to help with the situation? I'm going to close it on that and open it up for public comments because Corey Welch has been very, very patient. So I want to bring Corey Welch into the meeting for good and welfare.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, thank you all for your hard work and for showing up and doing all you do. So I just have a question and again, this might have not much to do with the actual meeting itself, but you did bring up code enforcement, and recently I found out that I was flagged by code enforcement several years ago for something that I was unaware of. So I submitted a plan to rectify it and was actually scheduled for a meeting with the building department. Showed up to it, and it was the day that City Hall closed. So I'm just would like to know, again, I paid several $1,000s to address it and submitted plans, and this would be an opportune time to address it as it's something I can do myself. But the building department's closed, so.
Well, may I answer that?
Hey, Corey, thank you for coming on. Not a problem. I'm going to ask the manager to please, since the meeting was canceled, for her to address it at this point.
Thank you. Yes, we are, the Village Hall is not open, but we are processing applications by appointment and online. So send our building clerk, it's buildingclerk@villageofelportel.org, an email, and she will schedule an appointment with you to address your issue.
She emailed me several weeks ago and said basically we couldn't do anything.
We can now. We had to ramp up our efforts. We've been in constant contact with our IT department, and now we're able to do these things online, and we have some access to, a large part of that was not having access to a government website. We had to physically be in the building. So now she can, now that things are a little bit calmer in the Village Hall and we're able to come in a little bit more, she can do a special appointment with you. So now we're able to do that, and it's on our website that we, I actually put that out last week, that we're now able to accept appointments and do online submissions. So if you'd like to schedule now, I'm sure she would be happy to see you this week.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, thank you, Corey, for your patience. Christina, you know, I just saw that on the website. If you draft a little letter, let's get it out to the residents.
Okay.
I saw that on the website about the new thing. I think that's good, but they probably won't go to the fourth or third page. Write like a little memo and we'll get it out to the residents.
Will do.
Any other public comments? No, there's nobody else on. Okay. Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Madam Mayor. Second, Madam Mayor.
A motion been made by Councilperson Roman, second by Vice Mayor Nickerson. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any nays? Hearing none, our public safety meeting ends at 8:13 p.m. Thank you all. Have a good night.
You guys take care. Bye-bye.